How many person are we right now, Margot? Do you see how many we are right now?
Around 20, I guess.
That's very nice. Very good. So we have 4 sessions right now ongoing in parallel, and you are in the so-called digitalization session. And I would like to guide you a little bit through this session with a prepared slide set. Can you please give me the next slide, Margaret? So very briefly, this session is, as you know, on digitalization. We call it the key enabler. Of course, this may be seen as a little bit aggressive from those who provide the energy, the renewable energy into the system. But you know, as you heard in the many presentations before, digitalization is everywhere. It goes into almost every project. I think there's probably no project without digitalization. And we want in this session today, as we heard before, learn from you. You know, we want to learn from the projects. We want to get input, if possible, you know, change what we wrote, what ETIP SNET was writing in the past on with its implementation plan and the roadmap. So it's great that we are here. And here you have the persons on the slide, which are part of active in this session. Let me just go from top down. So with me as moderator, we have Margot Delestre from Zabala. She was already talking with me and you heard her before. But then we have the key persons, which are the panelists in this session, which will give input and views and opinions. And first, we have Markus Bechmann. He is the ETIP SNET representative from an association, from the association, key one called ESMIC. Thank you very much for being here. Then we have a representative from the most associated work group. This is, I mean, to digitalization. This is the ETIP SNET work group 4. And we have today here Sandra Riagno from Dignalia. And I see her on the screen. Very good. Great that you're here. And then we have, well, let's say the core, the 4 core persons here, which present ongoing projects. And this is the order of projects as we will hear them later. First, the so-called eBalance Plus project, which is today, I think, represented by Christoph Piotrowski. Can you lift your hand so I can see who you are? Very good. Thank you very much. I think Daria Kuletmitieva is not here. Is that correct? Huh? Okay, very good. But of course, there are always many people involved in these projects, and we only have one, of course, key representative talking about the project. Then the second project will be the project called Building Digital Twins from Energy Performance Certificate Data. This is called EPC for SES, will be represented by Gerfried Sebrat. Can you lift your hand, please? Gerfried, are you here? Okay, I don't see you. Margot, do you see? Is Gerfried here?
Him. No, I don't see him.
Okay, okay. So let's see if he's still coming because we have a presentation from his side. I can tell that to everybody.
He is in the call, but I think his camera is off.
Okay, maybe you can give him a little email message and send him the direct link to this session. There may be a problem there. And as a third person, as a third project, we have the so-called Interconnect Project, which will be, as we heard, presented by Milenko Tosic from Visolre Labs. Are you here, Milenko?
Yes, yes. I was
very good. The
raising
yes
my hand.
is perfect. Sorry, I didn't see your hand. I just saw the head. It was a too small picture. Very, very good. Great. And last but certainly not least, from the Interface project, Tong Wu from the Emacs group. You are on my here on my lower left. Great. So we only miss Gerfried Sebrat. Let's see if we get him. But anyway, we have a few minutes before we will hear from you. I just want to, can you please give me the next slide? Very brief, and we have talked too much. You know, we are here to shape the next implementation plan and the next roadmap written by the ETIP SNET. And this is on a very high level driven by the 3 goals, which you see here: secure, resilient, reliable supply, affordable, you know, and market-based energy services. And of course, the protected environment with less CO2 and so on is key. Let's go on. So we translated that. Next slide, please. ETIP SNET translated this goal into documents in the past. And you see here, I think there are many documents. We heard about them also from the work groups which were done, but as a whole group, ETIP SNET has published these 3 documents. On the right-hand side, you see the vision, which looks forward until 2050. Then we have the roadmap, which looks forward for the next 10 years. And finally, we have on the left side the so-called implementation plan, which tries to focus on the next 4 years. They are downloadable from the internet, but I think, as the questionnaire at the beginning showed, you know ETIP SNET quite well, but here you find all the details. Next slide, please. And don't worry, I will not go into all the details, but I want to stimulate actually what our goal is. You know, we want you to challenge and or criticize or you know, confirm what we wrote. We defined at ETIP SNET in our last IP and roadmap 6 so-called 6 research areas. Norella also talked about it, and I just bring them to you here so you have that in the background when we talk about the 3rd area, which you see on the lower part, which is digitalization. We concentrate here on digitalization, but there are many other related research areas, and I just want you to again just get you know, a thought. These are the areas, and we have the so-called sub areas which are listed here. I will not go into them for now. Next slide. So these are the first 3, and here is the 4th and the 5th research area. And again, we have the associated sub areas, and we really try to cover, in quote, everything that has to do with integration. So if you, from your experience, miss things here, or if you think this is already resolved in terms of RNI, or you know, we need to group them in a new way because this leads to impossible research topics or so, we want to hear from you. You can be really frank. We are really capturing here so that we can improve our documents. Next slide, please. And just don't worry, I will again not go into it. What you find in the implementation plan is that a detailed list of 120 so-called research tasks. They are listed on the right-hand side for each of the topics. So we cannot you know, tell researchers what to do in terms of research. Researchers know best where research is needed, you know, and project people know what they want to solve. But we try to kind of put a categorization of things to do so that also the European Commission, the national governments, all the involved stakeholders know what needs to be, you know, potentially funded, what needs to be done. And that's why we put up these lists of tasks. Again, if you have comments on them, not only during this session, also in the, you know, in the weeks to come and so on, please give us feedback. We are very interested in hearing whether this is nonsense, whether this is outdated, or if something is missing. This is the goal. So so here you have a part of what we could discuss in this data digitalization session. Let me just mention a few keywords. This is about protocols. This is about ICT. This is about communication interfaces. This is about information exchange. This is about aggregation and control, you know, data gathering and then aggregating and, you know, extracting messages. It's about monitoring and control. This has also to do with data. It's about the smart meter data, which you will just see later in one of the presentations. It's about risk-based maintenance. You know, when you want to capture risk, you need data for that. And how do you capture it? We put that right now in this digitalization research area. Next slide. And that's the last one. So these are the other three so-called research topics. We talk about big data management as one of the key tasks. We talk about IoT technologies and use as a key thing. Cybersecurity, protection of grid infrastructures is very important. We talk about, as was mentioned also just before by Elena, the privacy elements, the GDPR compliant methodologies is a challenge. Then we have the new and old systems, everything digital, but how do we handle the interfaces from the new ones to the old ones? That's one of the tasks we have. This was also mentioned before already by Elena, this private versus public ICT system world, how will we design our systems? Can we use that and so on? So this is a question. Then we have the digital twin, of course, as a key challenge. We have the data exchange between the voltage levels, which we want to have solutions for. And finally, this is the last one which we have in this list. This is ICT-based approaches for data storage and architectural schemes. So the order of these tasks is not at all, the order of importance. We need to find out what is important. What do we put first? What shall we do in this period and not only in the, very late? This is what we want to find out. And for that, we have invited the projects and your experience. Actually, that's what we want to hear. Next slide, please. So I ask Margot, are you ready to ask the audience before we go into the 99-second pitches of each project? Are we ready to ask the whole audience these questions?
Yes, we are. We will send you a link via the chat so you can go directly to Slido. And here, as before, you can enter the code and choose the parallel session 3, and we will share the screen with your answers.
Okay, so I would recommend now everybody, not only the project people here, which will be presenting, just go to this link. We want to hear just an impression. Who is listening to this session? Huh? Who will be listening to the 4 project presentations and to what we are discussing here? And I hope this works technically. I'm also doing that on my mobile phone. You need to go to parallel session 3, and there you should get the very first question. Can you put up the question so that people see that we actually are in the right, exactly in the right polling world? Yes. I see at least yes, you see it on the screen, and hopefully you have it on your phone. Just click wherever you are. You already know the question from before, but this is now for this particular session. Let's just wait a few more seconds. Very interesting. The technology providers, yes, they are not very often mentioned actually explicitly, but great that you're here. It's those companies and institutions and people, who do in the end the sellable products and services, and that's what we need at the very end, So very good. Research institutions also very high. DSOs, TSOs in a balanced way. That's great. And again, the famous other, which probably includes consultancies, and that's it. Very good. So you see who we are. I like very much the technology providers, and yeah, you can really give your input also to this session. Next, let's go for the next question, please. We only have 3, I think. Then let's just go on. Again, where are you coming from? You who are here listening, just give again your country in full word in English. And we will see if that is again France, Spain, Germany, as in the main session. Okay, that is interesting. And the size of the font represents kind of in proportion, to how many people are putting it down. Interesting, very nice that we have from Central Europe and from Southern Europe, and even also from the north. Yes, Ireland, well, kind of north, yeah, whatever. Estonia, Ireland, very good, and also from the east, which is Serbia. Great, very good. Let's just leave it for now. Do we have another one? I think
The last one.
yeah. Which of the following is currently your primary research area? Well, I have presented you and you have seen these 6 research areas. Can you just tell us where your primary one is? We know you do more than one area, but just highlight the one which is primary for you. This is nice. Of course, if we have the keyword digitalization and we are in the session, we expect it to be relatively high. But as you see, and this confirms again, we are here in a session which is not only about digitalization per se. It is also about applying digitalization to use cases. And I guess that's what is meant by flexibility enablers and system flexibility. How do you get this thing to run, to work, and you need digitalization for it. And so there are different levels of digitalization about which we can talk, and you will just see, we will go into that after the pitches. System operation, great. System economics, that's markets. And what is the last one? Planning and of course the consumer. And the citizen in the middle, yeah, it still has actually there's nobody representing that. Very good, thank you very much. Let's go back to the slides. I think this is helpful to see. And we now go into, well, that is the last one. I just want to tell you, from the admissions which we get, from the applications of the many projects which apply to show the project, as you will just do in a few seconds, we have now designed a tentative plan of the sessions to come. And today we are in the yellow marked one, which is about digitalization, and we try to focus a little bit on semantic interoperability, protocols, data gateways, and IoT integration. But you also see here a tentative plan of the upcoming regional workshops and what we plan to talk about in and what we plan to hear about from several projects. I will not go into detail. Let's just go on. And I think now we are ready to go into the 99-second project pitches. So the idea is that each project has 2, 3 or so slides, so-called 99 seconds. Please try to keep the time. And we will ask questions immediately after each project just to understand. And at the end, we will discuss it together and make the links to what ETIP SNET is doing. So the first project is eBalance, and I would like to ask Christoph to make his presentation. Please, I give you the word. And you just push the slide forward, Margot. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Krzysztof Piotrowski. I am a scientist at IHP. It's a research institute in Frankfurt-Oder in Germany. And I'm representing the eBalance Plus project. It's an Horizon 2020 project where we are working on a data-centric energy management platform that should provide energy flexibility and resilience in the new smart grid. It's a distributed approach with clear interfaces that has a hierarchical structure, just like the grid has. It allows decentralized data storage and algorithms, and supports scalability. And in order to make it work, we also work on developing and integrating devices and algorithms in order to fulfill the chain of monitoring, so controlling the monitoring, so measuring the parameters, creating data, doing the processing, and then generating controlling system to control the devices. And on the level of interoperability on the device level, we use adapters to talk to the devices. And on the level of algorithms, we use interoperability based on generic data. Next slide, please. So data needs to be protected. And the local data storage approach and processing, it already limits the exposure of the data, but we vote, or we opt for security at all the levels of the system, which is very heterogeneous. And we follow an approach where the data ownership exists, and the owners, they define what can happen with the data. Back to the project. The project is a follow-up project of FP7 eBalance project. We have 15 partners, 10 countries, and have 4 demo sites. We run from February 20 to July 23. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That is very much on time and very short, of course, but it just gives an impression. That's exactly the idea. There's much more ongoing in each of the projects. But let's just use the opportunity, and then I think let's use the motto that Markus Bechmann from ESMIC and Sandra Riagno from Workgroup 4 and myself, let's ask one or two or three questions now. If you have a question, Sandra and Markus, just you can ask them now. If not, I will hang in, just understanding questions, maybe when you heard what you heard. Do you have a question to our project presenter?
Yeah, so there's one question. So Markus Bechmann here from ESMIC. So you said, so you are probably working with different technologies then, and you have this integration layer. So what are you using there? So in terms, is this a kind of middleware or also some hardware pieces? So how can we imagine that?
So the energy management platform is based on our middleware. It's a distributed middleware, and it is you can imagine this as a distributed data space, and the data is holding the information. So the middleware, it has interfaces where different services can read and write data, and the services that on the other end talk to the devices, they are called adapters. So this is what we use for interoperability. But of course, if you have a device which is let's say not controllable at all, so it has no digital interfaces, you need to attach additional hardware, for example, smart plug, to switch it on and off. But it's then hardware comes into play. But in general, it's the idea to translate different digital languages into the one used by our middleware, and then distribute the data within the system to process it.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. I don't know if Sandra, you can ask in the next one if you want. Let me just ask one thing which goes through all digitalization projects, and I would like just to hear very briefly opinions, and we can talk about that later. Is this research what you are doing, or is it implementation, or is it adaptation of basic technology which you get from others? Can you elaborate very briefly on that? Where is your work actually ongoing? Are you putting together things, or are you digging in the bits, or where is the work actually challenging and most intensive?
So I think there's a gap between ideas and reality sometimes, and the research is to close the gap, because you can have very brilliant ideas, but they have no real maybe I will not say implementation, but the gain may be limited. So you can have, for example, a brilliant idea which is that computationally expensive that it's an overkill. And I think that the research is well, there are different levels of research, and if you are talking about basic research, it's more maybe related to protocols and data transmission. But when we talk about more product-related research, it can be, for example, looking for open problems. For example, what are the use cases defining for requirements, and then looking for an optimal solution for the problem, in a sense that that you don't try to if you want to kill a fly that is flying around your flat, you don't need a shotgun. You just need a newspaper, and it's enough. So you can always try it with a shotgun, but you can make more damage than it is worth. So it is that's the research, I think, and that's what we are doing.
Yeah, I like your everything, but the initial statement, close the gap between ideas and reality. That's very good. So it seems to be part of your project, correct? Did you have ideas?
Yes,
which were not realistic, let's say.
We, as I said, this project is a follow-up project, and we started in 2013 with the EBANAS project, and we had an idea that data is everything. So we have something like a pool or data space where you put your data, and others can, for example, use the data to perform some services for you. So as a energy customer, you can, for example, put your energy consumption data, and some service provider can compute the optimum behavior for you or whatever. And the question is, how realistic is the idea? So who needs that? And we tried to check also what is the cost and complexity. And then we developed the first platform in the first project, and now we are also trying to deploy it on a larger scale with demonstrators that also involve controllable devices and also already available devices, how we can include them into the loop, because as we look at the energy market, which is pretty diverse in the European region, we have different countries, some high-level regulations, but in each country they can be also implemented in an individual way. We will also try to make a solution that can be adaptable to everything, to all the legal or technical limitations. And then we decided data and the way we then use the data can be different in different countries.
Wow, there would be many more points to discuss. Thank you very much. Let's go to the second short pitch, which is the project called EPC for SES, presented by Gerfried Sebrat. Please.
Thank you for giving me the floor. Next slide, please. The EPC for SES project is a project going till next year, start next year. We are building digital twins of buildings for implementing model predictive control. We have 6 partners in 4 pilots. Next slide, please. Here you can see the unblocking of the exploitation of that data. The left one is the actual situation where there is no communication between supplier and clients. And then, of course, in the middle, we will have some discussion phase about interface services, etc., semantics, interoperability, and afterwards connecting then clients with the suppliers. We will have then interoperability and providing MPC for decarbonization on both ends of the information linkage. Next slide, please. Here you see in detail how we foresee that we will have, there is something lacking, please click. Thank you. Yes, we will have a transmission of the CO2 forecast from the supplier to the client, and then they will compile the optimum for the load and then upload the optimum forecast to the supplier. So both are profiting in this asynchronous scheme. Next, please. The outlook is such that we will be validating this approach. You see here the SCAM scheme, you already know. We will validate interoperability. And secondly, we will be exploiting the ideas we had during the project. One idea is, for example, using a QR code to store away the EPC data. And of course, one idea also is to join forces to have one data model for EPC in Europe. For further information, please visit smartenergy.nu. Thank you for your attendance.
Thank you very much, Gerfried. Very on time, very much on time. Again, some questions. Maybe Sandra, if you have one, just feel free, please.
Okay, good morning. Just a simple question. Which kind of buildings are you monitoring in the project? There are residential buildings or commercial buildings, or?
We started with residential buildings, but one pilot is a university.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also one office building.
Okay, is there any kind of restriction in the data collection because of the data privacy problems with the end users, or how do you solve this?
Yes, this is a private use of the data. So we're using the building data for setting up the EPC on an individual level. This is one application which doesn't interfere with privacy issues because the data is owned by the building owner. Of course, you're right. If it comes to regional planning, you see in the last slide, you see the bubbles. If it comes to district heating or the grid and regional energy planning, of course, then the situation is difficult. But the authorities responsible for planning, for example, they are having the data in their hands. So if they don't disclose, but only use for planning the decarbonization, I think it's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Also one question from my side, or even two. Again, you said that the SCAM is validated, you use the SCAM to validate, the interoperability. So is that just using a given software and looking if it works, or is it digging in terms of research? What type of work is that? I'm just interested. And the other question, which I can also ask, is it's of course model predictive control itself has algorithms, forwarding. You need some optimization algorithm there. Is this where the real research is happening? And if yes, at what level are you there? Is it mature, or is it you're still learning a lot how to do that? What is your view on that?
Yeah, of course, thank you for the questions. Of course, we had all a little bit of delay because of the pandemic. To begin with the second question, we are just in the midst of setting up the software for the modeling. And of course, we are learning a lot, yeah, especially answering. We have set up 15 questions to evaluate. And one question is, of course, what is the rebound effect? If you have computational loads, is this eating up the savings? So we have to demonstrate that we will have real savings. That's one of the tasks we're doing now. But apart from that, implementation work, which is on a, let's say, research prototypical level, it's not so advanced that you can sell it right now. But okay. It's quite using actual data, so it's interesting. And the second point is the validation you spoke about. This is the SCAM scheme was used to see where we are located. And you see there are new players. For example, the EPC issuer is a player which is not normally in a grid, depicted in a grid. So we have new players, and the validation will be such that, of course, there are no additional services which we can interoperate operate with them. we cannot link to existing. Also, I found out that there is no transparent smart meter gateway. No, there is not such a thing. So what we can do is, of course, to set up some prototypes and then to monitor whether the communication is okay and the MPC is possible and the system is stable, running stably. So that's the point we want to validate. And of course, there is a scheme, and JRC has made a scheme and published that. This is called Smart Grid Interoperability Testing Methodology. So we will check whether this is applicable in our case.
Thank you very much. Very useful, I think, to get a feeling, of what projects need to deal with when they go into digitalization issues. Very good. Let's go to the third project, please, which is called the Interconnect Project, exactly. And this will be presented by Milenko Tosic from the Wislor Labs, if I'm right in spelling that.
Yes, as you can hear, my neighbors decided at this moment to start drilling something.
No problem.
Can you give me like 10 seconds? Maybe they will stop because they are starting and stopping. Like always.
No, don't worry. We hear you well.
Okay, if you can hear me well, then I can probably start. Hi, everyone. As introduced, my name is Milenko Tosic. I'm Director of Innovation at Wislor Labs Foundation from Serbia, and I represent Project Interconnect today. The Project Interconnect, or Interoperable Solutions Connecting Smart Homes, Buildings, and Grids, brings together 50 partners who represent key stakeholders from the energy sectors and IoT domain. Interconnect's mission is to enable semantic interoperability between digital platforms, services, and devices, and as a result, bring efficient energy management within the reach of the end users through interoperable solutions from smart homes, buildings, and grid domains. The project will demonstrate achieved interoperability through innovative use cases across 7 large pilots in 7 European countries. Next slide. In order to achieve the ambitious goal, the Interconnect project is introducing a semantic interoperability framework, which comprises a set of tools and enablers for establishing semantic interoperability layers between different stakeholders, their infrastructures, and services. By establishing semantic interoperability, participating stakeholders create so-called federated knowledge spaces. These federated knowledge spaces are a solid basis for building innovative applications and services capable of boosting overall performance, efficiency, convenience, and comfort of energy management and smart building automation processes for the end users. I invite you to visit the project website to get more information about our activities and ambitions. We have a lot of ongoing activities, and we are, let's say, in the middle of our developments and just starting the pilot deployments.
Thank you very much. Also it's crazy, these 2 slides, this brings a lot, I think, you get it on the point. Of course, no details, but let's talk about it. Markus and Sandra, do you have a spontaneous question for?
Yeah, so I have a question. I think it's really an impressive number of participants that you have here in the Interconnect project. And probably it's necessary, because there are so many technology players coming up, and so you also have several demonstration sites or demonstration projects in the overall project. So how are you researching a kind of common language between all these technologies? Is there a central work package developing a new communication standard that is applied by all the sites, or what will be the end result?
Yeah. So we have divided this technological challenge of implementing the semantic interoperability between already existing solutions. So the goal is basically to glue together existing digital platforms, services, and devices with this unifying interoperability layer, providing semantic interoperability. And we have a work package dedicated to defining the new ontology or extending the existing ontology for the needs of the pilots. And we are basing our work on the SAREF ontology and extending it for the flexibility, forecasting, comfort, user preferences, security, and additional challenges. We have use cases which focuses on enabling or SAREFizing existing services and developing new interoperable services. And one of the work packages which I'm leading is the work package dedicated to implementing interoperability framework, which is, let's say, somehow represented here quite on a high level. And this interoperability framework we are developing to be ontology agnostic, so that it can be used in different domains, not just for the purpose of the project. And it provides a set of tools which digital platform operators and service providers can use to adapt and make their existing technologies interoperable. So we are basically building this toolbox for specific technologies which are represented in our consortium, so that we can make them talk together. So really targeting tools for example, eBus spine protocol, for typical RESTful APIs and technologies, for more IoT-oriented MQTT devices, and for more energy constrained and let's say standard constrained systems like smart meters and others.
Sandra, maybe you have one or not?
Well, it's impressive, this oversimplified view of the interconnect. Could you tell us which is the main challenge you have faced with the development of the pilot?
The main challenge is basically to let's say provide this set of software components or tools for the interoperability framework, which is easy enough for implementation by the stakeholders represented in the pilots. Because if we implement something that really requires a lot of integration efforts, it will not be a successful solution in practice. So together with this really large consortium and different kinds of partners represented in the pilots, we try to implement a solution which can raise to the challenge of semantic interoperability, but on the other hand be not straightforward, but optimal for integration at the side of digital platforms and existing service providers and their infrastructure. So there's a lot of trade-offs and a lot of compromises that we have to make here in order really to have something going forward and at the end of the project that can be easily used by different kinds of integrators, not necessarily just experts from the energy field, like experts in different types of standards and protocols, but any kind of developers. Like you can also have web-based services and developers who are really used to using RESTful APIs and things like that. So we also want to make the framework accessible to them as well. And we will also have 2 cascade funding programs starting in 2022. And in this period, we are really finalizing the interoperability framework, making it usable not just within the project, but outside of the consortium. We will have this 2 years of validating how well it can be used and receiving the feedback from third-party integrators about the solution and its usability in practice.
One last question, will this be open source or will it be a product to sell by a company, or what concept do you have in mind here?
The goal is for it to be open source.
Wow, okay. But when will it be available? Well, hopefully. When is the end of the project?
The end of the project is 2023.
Okay, very good.
The first interoperability framework version will be available end of September this year. And going forward, as I said, we are really going public because we have these open calls, and open calls participants will be based on the technology that we are developing.
Very interesting. Thank you very much, Milenko. Now let's go to the 4th and last one, last but not least. It's the Interface project. You tell me how to spell that, Tang. It will be presented by Tang Wu from the Emacs group. Please, I give you the word.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ren, and good morning, everyone. My name is Tang Wu from Emacs. Today, I give a short presentation of interface because as for now, so we put to R. Interface objective is to create an European pan-European architecture for TSO, DSO coordination on flexibility. So we have 3 areas of demonstration, congestion balancing. The first one, peer-to-peer, at the second, and pan-European clearing time at the third. And today I bring you one dimension of peer-to-peer and more specific at blockchain, using blockchain for the interchange of the data among the party, TSO, DSO, and prosumer aggregator at a open marketplace. For that, we are work packet leader and also a demo leader for this. So to coordinate among the TSO, DSO, and also as a party, we apply the blockchain concept. And of course, why blockchain? We can go deeper later. We want to share it and create a trust among that. The platform is now live at the prototype MVP for the testing. We do the testing in Romania and Bulgaria, which are TSO and DSO. So next slide, please. And of course, at the interface project, we want to create a pan-European repo, pan-European grid service architecture. That is short form of ISA architecture. So for the TSO, DSO to procure the flexibility so that we follow the ISGAN and also the business logic from pre-qualification to product qualification, service procurement, activation, and settlement. And of course, there are many options available on the market. There are many data sources from TSO, DSO, but also parallel trading platform. So how can we interconnect them in a good way? So the way we build the platform had to be open enough, microservice with API for interconnection, meaning that we don't have to develop everything from our our platform, but we can use either platform for example, grid qualification, product qualification, or even user registration or authentication, and etc. So that is a way how we can synergy, but also to make use of other platform to move forward to the real life application. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, I'm always fascinated to hear these different angles of projects. You know, this is not the same as all the others. There was none which is the same as another one. They are really different. They complement each other, and we need to learn, you know, in terms of digitalization, where do we need more resources in the future to spend on you know, what is needed for all these four projects which may come from other sources. So when I'm hearing that, will that be now the thing, the platform for DSOs and TSOs in Europe, the only one, or how? I mean, there are many ongoing, I think, search endeavors or projects or so. What is your view? How will it be used if it is successful at the end? Where are the limits of reuse and scaling up and so on? Or can you say something on that or speculate on it?
Yeah, it's everything is speculation today, but I can say that today there is no real coordination platform at TSO, DSO. Everything via the phone today, sending the data, so no real life exchange of things, even with it things. And of course, the challenge that do we go with only one architecture or the one platform, or we go with many initiative action. There is no winning solution. Of course, from the interface, we want to have a common architecture for that. So when implement, so that it will reach to that direction. But of course, it's a combination of bottom up and also a guideline on the top, similar to the network code that we are writing. So my speculation is that we will have many platforms, but gradually we will join them at one point. Yes.
That's a very strong statement. Yeah, we will have many platforms initially, but they will merge, hopefully, or converge to something which is reusable among all the TSOs and DSOs. Yeah, let's see. Very good. Yes, Sandra and Marcus, please.
Just a question on the chat from Gerfried,
okay.
Which is, what is your opinion on the role of smart meters And will client-supplier communication use general-purpose communication channels or other channels through the smart meter?
Very good. Can you actually everybody can answer, but Tong, can you try to answer that? It is in the chat, the question, I think.
Maybe I didn't hear it clearly. So
well,
on the role of smart
Yes.
meter, yeah.
Yeah, what is your opinion on the role of smart meters? Will client supplier communication use general purpose communication, or will this be, you know, different than general? Is it public or is it private, or how will you communicate the data? You know, I think that was the question to you.
Yep, of course, that smart meter is an enabler, in my opinion. Without smart meter or even IoT devices, we cannot verify the signal, meaning that the delivery of the flexibility in this context of interface project. So it's very crucial, and of course, us, the way we build our platform today is, let's say, very neutral ownership of the data. As long as we can connect the data via API, either owned by the independent or by the meter owner, it doesn't matter. As long as we can get the data, it's okay. So that is ownership diagnostic. Yeah, neutral.
Thank you. There was another question which also was going through my mind when I was listening to the 4 presentations. This person, Mario Bruno, says, I think including decision makers is the key, you know. So because we talked about who is part of a project, where are the challenges? It's not only technology, it's people, it's getting them involved, getting them doing maybe trivial things, but at least do them, you know. So do you have also a view on, you know, on, because in your project, Tong, you know, you involve real world stakeholders, you know, which do business and they must change. Can you say a few words about what is ongoing there? Is it hard to collaborate, or, well, of course you must be positive, but just say a few, maybe you have a few statements on that.
Yeah, from the stakeholder like DSO and DSO, they are very open for new concepts. Of course, especially that the concept of flexibility to delay or to avoid last investment into the copper, meaning to the network, so that we can have an intelligent way to manage grid in the future. But of course, that again, everything is regulated, meaning that TSO, DSO have to be regulated. They also have a way to remunerate the investment, either in CAPEX or sometimes it mainly now is a CAPEX. And also the way that also the coordination between the dispatching center or operation department, asset department, and innovation management, and also planning. So gradually that people, let's say, are more aware of flexibility issue and appreciate and want to make it happen. But of course, that is step by step, and because we touch the system security here, so it will take appropriate action, not only the regulatory framework challenge, but also the operation security challenge. So we have to move away from traditional way of operating and manage one safety, very famous. So that is, yeah, it's all happens all the time, but we are positive about that.
Just before we go to the, well, we are already discussing now anyway, that's great. Sandra and Marcus, do you have a question to Tong, maybe?
Yeah, actually, I have a question. And so this flexibility trading and so on, I think there have been quite a number of now innovation projects going on, showing that on different sites. So how do you see that? So will that be a local system so that we have many different platforms depending on the TSO maybe? Or do you see here potential for a cross-Europe transborder platform so that we can also create transborder flexibilities? What is your vision on that?
Yeah, you are right that we have many innovative initiatives or many innovation projects on this topic. However, that everything governed at European level with the network code and things. I think from the market point of view, we have day ahead in today's coupling today, but still the balancing or congestion is still very local. I cannot show the local congestion via pan-European things. So something that we have to do also local. For me, of course, I'm very strong in the direction that the framework, things like that have to happen at European so that we share the same vision. But the implementation will happen at the local level first, then gradually we will join later.
Okay, so I think if I hear that, it seems like the big single super solution will not be there from moment one. You know, we will need to build it up bottom up. I guess that's it will grow. Huh? I guess the maturity, and maybe we converge. Yeah, in a few years. That's probably what you're saying.
But from the interface project, what we try is that we have a common architecture, interoperable pan-European for this topic. Yeah, so that from architecture point of view, and we are testing with different solutions for that. Yes.
Okay, thanks a lot. Sandra, you have an urgent one?
I think we should move on to the panel discussion.
No. Well, we are already in the panel. If you want, that doesn't matter.
Okay.
But I will skip anyway the next question. So let's just go on. Sorry, Sandra, but you can we can talk about anything. Can you give me the next slide? And I just want to skip a part because I think this, the part 3 of this little session today was actually on digitalization use cases. But I think what we heard was really on use cases. And I think you gave your views, about the elements which are critical and so on. So in a certain way, we already talked about this part 3. And I would like to propose to go to the next part, which is part 4, which I really want to dig a little bit. Can you show? So this is now on digitalization R&I needs. ETIP SNET, we of course we want at the end of the projects are happening, but we are there to formulate the things which need to be resolved. Where do we? So the upcoming projects, including yours, what do you need to do actually? Is it just setting up the right stakeholders and proposing a project and getting them active, or is it resolving key issues? And please show me the next slide. And I just want to give you here the questions which I had in my mind to everybody, also to the audience. I was asking myself, can we say something where the biggest digitalization R&I challenges are? Is this, and I just read that, and then we can broadly talk about it. Is it that SCAM is hard to understand, or is it not fitting as an architectural framework? Is it where we need to do work? Is the SIM the best and right data management model? Shall we make it mandatory? What about use case modeling? Since you all are applying it, are you doing formal use case modeling, or you just do it in your own way? What about public and private data? Now, is this the thing to do research? What about cross-border and cross-border data management? Is this super difficult and we need to really dig much more? What about interoperable data exchange platforms? What about the harmonized energy role model, the so-called HARM? You find that on the internet. And if you have ideas, what is missing in this list, where would you like, or should we all do new research? I would be interested in that. And before you answer that, and I give you really the floor to all the project partners and also to to Markus and Sandra. Can you go to the next slide where you see in big that picture here? You know, I got this picture from the Bridge management, data management working group. They are working on that probably right now. This was presented at the last Bridge General Assembly, and this is about, I interpret that as digitalization levels or steps, and they propose here you know, elements of a data exchange reference architecture, which of course should be widely used. And when you look through this picture, you see many, you know, keywords, standards, application worlds, and so on. And I would like to ask you, where in this big picture, if you see it spontaneously, are you actually digging or doing things? Is it everywhere, or are you focusing? And where do you think are the hardest elements to do? That's, I just want, so you're free to talk about either that picture or about the other SCAM and SIM and these elements. Where do we really need to dig in future projects? You know, can you give me your view? And we will take note. And of course, it's not as scientifically and academically proven what you say, but it's views, experience, that's what we need. For me, this is a challenge picture which shows so many aspects, and I'm, let's say, a little bit lost. What shall I tell the EC on this picture? You know, where do we need to focus? Can you give me your views? And maybe let's go top down. Top down. Well, it's not in level, of course. Let's first, Markus, can you give your view from your association, ESMIC? Then let's go to work group 4 and then the 4 projects. Let's just go top down in my list, at least.
Yeah,
Markus, what do you want to say on this picture?
I think, thank you very much for this picture, because just looking at it, I think just tells us everything without reading the different standards and everything, because that's exactly where we are struggling a bit. So as you know, the ESMIC is the Association about Smart Energy Solution Providers. I personally work at SAP. I'm the Global Innovation Lead at SAP for the utilities industry, and we try to develop standard software that can be used here. So we have everything for the commercial processes. We are fine. We can store the meter data as well. That's also fine. But now for the new use cases, we need connectivity to the devices, and the devices here are at the bottom of this chart, and our business systems are on the top of this chart. And so that's exactly our problem that we have. How can we find our way without developing 1,000 interfaces that we all have to update regularly? So I think that's the biggest challenge currently, and that's also why I like very much this Interconnect project, where we see alone at the number of participants, so how many different technologies we have. So we are really looking for, let's say, a standard interface where I can say, if I need now data from a smart meter or from another device in the smart home, how can I get it with a standardized interface without having to understand the protocol of each different hardware? So that's exactly the challenge.
Thank you very much. Clear opinion and view, and going from top to down without knowing how to solve the middle part, huh? In a simple way. That's what you say. Or we need a way how to resolve these many interface issues. Next one, Sandra. What's your spontaneous thoughts when you see this picture? You are representing workgroup 4, huh? That's the digitalization workgroup here.
Yes. From my experience, I nowadays working in data analytics for the energy sector. So I'm trying to fill the gap between the electricity domain and the cross-sector domain. And for me, it's interesting. It says before from a lot of people in the workshop, the data sharing is a problem, because it should be guaranteed that this data sovereignty is belonging to the owner. The people with data don't want to share with the others. It's difficult. It's a really difficult thing. But for example, I think that the standard, I think that there is a lack of standards in the DCO, in the distribution network, because in the transmission network, I think the theme is very it's to get the standard, but I think that in the DSO, I miss some standardizing.
Okay. Very good. Data sharing, lack of standards in DSOs. Is this research, creating standards? Is this research?
It's
Well,
a good question.
somebody needs to do it, but what do we need to get them, you know, to get them somewhere downloadable, almost for free, hopefully, and as just reusable, huh, and scalable up. You know, this is I still don't get it yet. Huh? We have already talked about the standardization bodies and IEC and so on, and there are mechanisms to get in there, but then you need to represent countries and companies, and I don't know. Huh? I don't know if projects, our projects, you know, Bridge and whatever projects we have in the future, are the right body to do that. Maybe you have an opinion on that, but let's just go on. Now, Christoph, what is your view on what you see here?
So in the Balance Plus project, we are actually operating on several levels, I would say. So we also investigated in the first project what is the optimum approach to make people using the solution, and that question also was asked before. And our experience says that you have two groups of stakeholders. So you have the end customers, and you have the large stakeholders, DSOs, TSOs, and others. And for the end users, you have to convince them by, for example, saying how cool your solution is and how easy it is to use. And the other stakeholders, they are convinced by the legal points mostly. So it's not that I want to say that they are not interested in new solutions, but they mainly want to run their businesses. And if they are not forced, they will never change running system. And they are not forced, they will not change the behavior. So that's the one level we are operating on. And we are also working on functions, we can say. It's the algorithms to manage energy on the higher level. So we get the data and we process the data in order to generate control signals to trigger some actions and so on. So we do flexibility enabling algorithms and resilience algorithms based on the data. And we work on data exchange platforms. And what is that's actually the part that is most interesting for me, as the energy management platform is based on our, as I said, data exchange middleware, and we are also trying to use it for different things, not only energy, because we have seen that a lot of data used by the algorithms are from outside. So we, for example, can use environmental monitoring data to enhance the energy management protocols. And we are actually also, so I'm having another project that is using the same middleware platform for environmental monitoring. So we are using the same, let's say, data pool for different stuff. And this is something which is also to be investigated later, and synergies between the different sectors. That is something which is very interesting, I would say. And also the different requirements of different sectors. This is also an interesting part, because, for example, if you have centralized or decentralized data storage or data processing approach, they have different requirements. And you can, as I said, we want to optimize the whole thing. And there are many ways how to optimize it. For example, if you have distributed data storage, you can use data redundancy to speed up the data exchange. You can use, I don't know, other mechanisms to make it more secure and things like that. So you have always pros and cons of each, or you can have pros and cons for each mechanism, and the goal is to find the golden point or be close to it. So that is what is this is the research and innovation plan.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. It's not directly reflecting on the picture, but it gives us, as ETIP SNET, a few very good ideas. Thank you very much. Now let's go to Gerfried. What's your view on what we asked? You, you know, in terms of this picture or so, just feel free.
Thank you very much. From an emotional view, I fully agree to the others that, of course, this is a heavy task. On the other hand, at least in my project, I'm trying to pick out one use case and to implement, and then to deduct some general rules how to ensure interoperability. So far, I have not seen, if you're employing layering, for example, you can break down the problem into sub-problems and try to solve them one by one. So I think it's doable.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I understand. I think what you said as a message. I mean, we are all aware we have many pieces here, and there is no way, I think, to have a single shot solution. I think we all agree on that. And we all agree in the end, this thing must go from top to bottom. It must be one world, which somehow is homogeneous enough to create value and be at reasonable cost. Huh? Okay, let's go on with capturing views. Milenko, what is your view, please?
Yes, so still some drilling from my side, so I'm really sorry about that. Regarding the Interconnect project, as I said, one of the big challenges for us is, or the biggest effort is to create this toolbox of proven integration points between existing technologies and this unified interoperability, semantic interoperability layer. So as you see in this architectural overview, or layer view, during the project and in our pilots, we are going to combine different boxes and validate them in different pilots. So for example, SAREF-based ontology combined with JSON models for example, electric vehicle charging stations, and applying some flexibility management functions for DSOs will be examples of implemented use cases in our pilots. So this will be the proven and validated solutions, like use case per use case, and we are going to present or make available these implementations in more generic way, so that those stakeholders with similar challenges and needs can apply the same solution. Additionally, we have a lot of key stakeholders in our consortium, like DSOs, equipment manufacturers, and basically on this business level, one of the main things is proper value proposition for them. Either it is a regulation that is going to make them do something, or really a high business impactful value proposition that will make them shift their paradigm more steadily and gradually. And in order to motivate them to do that, it must not be too disruptive of the existing technology. So this is why we are building the interoperability layer for the existing technologies, trying actually to make existing DSO applications, for example, and services and interfaces interoperable with IoT domain and with other energy functionalities. And finally, one of the challenges as well is that on the functional level, we have a lot of service providers for example, flexibility aggregation and management, for forecasting services, comfort IoT services, and things like that. And on the information level, by applying this semantic interoperability, we are creating, as we call them, federated knowledge bases. enabling the existing services to make proper use and benefit from these validated knowledge bases is additional challenge that we are also addressing in one of our work packages.
Thank you. And yeah, everybody. I think I don't know how you are, what is happening in your brain when you listen and look at this picture. I think I'm getting messages here, huh, in between. Tong, what is your view here when you see that?
Rainer, just a
Yes?
thought. We
It's 12.
have 10 minutes left, so
Yes.
just if you want to go through, just to have time in mind.
Yeah, no. We will, Tong can have his view and then we will close this session.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you very much. It's very amazing to see this picture. I share the idea from previous speaker, especially Sandra and Christoph. From our point of view, from interface, our task, the data sharing is very challenging. Of course, first we have to have question, do we have data to share? So the question of Zephyr about the smart meter or IoT is very relevant. And what to share among the parties. So in an efficient way, and how to share it. When we say about how to share, so of course the SIM format, like Sandra mentioned, is happening at the DSO, but can we apply the same SIM format or standard to the DSO and to the prosumer? If we ask the same question, like the RAM up, RAM down, the time, everything at requirement at DSO for prosumer, I am afraid that no one can answer that. So how can we simplify that? So that is a question of standardization. And John, also your question before Marcus, can we harmonize the whole Europe? So I think that if we can show some of that issue, it's very, very helpful.
Excellent. Thanks all of you. I don't know if that was a kind of panel discussion, but we are here on the web. We are listening all together and one person is giving answers. I think that's quite a nice format. A question to Margot. Do we have time for this question to the audience? It's a little bit a crazy question, the one which I have in mind. Do we have time?
We have 7 minutes left.
Yeah, that's okay. I have my notes for the summary almost ready. Yeah. Okay, go to the next slide. I want to do a little. I want to do a little polling here. It's a crazy one, and please, and I say that to the audience: if you cannot answer, just say nothing, huh? Because it also indicates something. I will show you the picture again in the Slido, the one we talked about, and I would like you to indicate up to 3 most important RNI-related digitalization steps. So look at the right-hand side gray boxes. You will see them, I think, in the Slido question, and give me the 3 most important ones from your point of view. So can you show the Slido question, please? Margot? Or I will open it on my phone. Just sorry, I need to look at it myself. Okay. Yeah, here it is. Exactly. I think, so tick up to 3 boxes of the ones which you see in the question, just the ones which you consider whatever, most relevant, most important, the hardest, just the 3 which concern, which are of highest concern. So facilitate regulation, ensure cooperation, harmonize data roles, and so on. Just tick. I think you could tick more than 3 times. Just try to tick 3 times. So we have kind of a higher part of the importance. And I'm aware that this is not an easy one to ask, but give your view, I abstain here from my view, my own view here. Okay. I'm amazed by, well, the cross-sector data models, that they are high. That's kind of understandable because it's simply very complex. You cross worlds. The cooperation is very high, ensure cooperation, which fits to the statement that, you know, we need to have the right stakeholders being active, I think, and this is a big part of what we need to do in order to learn and scale up and you know, really implement what we need to implement. Interesting. The universal data applications is very high. Same, all the same, about same level of importance. Can you go further down? What is coming further down? Okay. Ensure data agnostic, protocol agnostic approach. We can also look at the less important things maybe at some point. That's also an indication what is not so, yeah, not so highly prioritized. Define and harmonize functional data process, define canonical information model. Maybe that's very specific. Okay, I think we are, let's go up, exactly. So what is at the top? This is the cross-sector data model, facilitate regulation. Okay, I think we need to talk more in future workshops on that. I'm interested in that. Ensure cooperation, I understand. The data applications, I think, is also relatively clear, huh, what that means. Great, wow. It's 12:06. We have still 4 minutes till the next session. Let's stop here. I want to thank all you projects and also the Marcus and Sandra here for the great inputs. For me, it was nice. We need to do more of that. And let's meet in the upcoming digitalization sessions, hopefully. Thank you very much. And let's go to the other link back to the main session. Thank you and see you soon.
Thank you. I have put the link in the chat.
Yeah.
Thanks.